lest you think that Stugotz only tries to annoy me when he's paid for it here in studio at microphones, I wake up this morning to a text string in which he's taking a victory lap saying, I guess the Braves figured out how to play baseball again last night after the postseason format tripped them up in week 1. And my answer was, well, the Dodgers, again, lose. And then Zach Gallen is thrown in my face by everybody here.
Horse.
He is the rare 92 and 93 mile an hour horse. The Dodgers are in big trouble, but Stugotz got sucked in somehow, and I think Billy did too. Billy hates the Braves, and when Billy's hater from within is summoned, he enjoys watching the Braves and Braves games in order to root for them to lose.
Well, I want the Phillies to lose also, so I'm in a no-win position because I hate the Phillies as well.
And a no-lose position. But the Braves saved their season at the fence last night. Like, that would have been to go back to Philadelphia with Bryce Harper running around the bases with his American flag bandana and sliding back into the city of brotherly love with a 2-0 lead in the Braves. Philadelphia would have been and is going to be insane.
That was an all-time great Major League Baseball postseason game last night. For the Braves to get a 2-run homer from Austin Riley to take the lead late in that game. They're
one-handed,
yeah,
correct?
I mean, yeah, they're staring being down 0-2 right in the face and going back to Philadelphia to play 2 games. And so for them to get out of that, it was such an amazing couple of innings where you had Riley hit the home run, gives them the lead, and then the way the game ended, we've never seen it before and we'll never see it again. I mean, I'm serious. The Phillies thought they had a home run to win the game. The Braves have last at bat, but that home run gets robbed, and maybe it's not a home run. Maybe it hits the top of the wall. But to double up Bryce Harper in that spot and the play Austin Riley made from third to cut it off at second, realize Harper was trying to get back to first, and get it over there for the double play, an insane game, an insane play.
You're gambling, huh?
I am.
The rare 8-5-3 double play.
You're crazy.
Bad play by Bryce Harper.
I thought I was fine with it, to be honest with you. Because if that ball gets down, then he scores. It's a tie game.
Tony just said you got to get on your horse, and I'm now imagining Bryce Harper getting on El Diablo, getting on the horse from the Dominican, because you do have to.
I had him on Adam Wainwright.
You got to be aggressive there.
Got to get on your horse, Dano.
Zach Gallen. You got to get aggressive there and try and, man, it would have been so cool if he had just been running around the bases with a hit off the wall, taking that into Philadelphia. And what do the Braves do? They make an all-time memorable play to end the game. And you're like, all right, 1-1, we go back to Philadelphia. That kind of stinks, but now the stakes are ratcheted up because we all know, you just saw Philadelphia's got the best environment of anybody in these games. Like, it is a baseball-crazed town all of a sudden. And
we didn't get to host the game in the first round, so we never really know.
Right.
Yeah. Incomplete sample, I'd say.
Fair point, Billy.
And the Braves won 100 games in Stugotz. You've heard me give the stats. They were a lot better than everybody this year. Like, they hit 100 balls more than the next highest team at 110 miles an hour exit velocity, where, like, Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton and Ohtani, the Braves were mashing the baseball like no one in the sport. They were a lot better than everybody this year.
I wanted the Braves to win that game because I had money on them, but also because at this point, the Mets are out of it, right? So they're not in the postseason. They're dreadful. They're terrible, even while spending $400 million, which seems impossible, okay? But, Dan, I just want stakes. I want there to be tension. And the Braves and the Phillies coming down to a Game 5 possibly, to me, is very exciting. That's all I want. I want these series to be exciting.
I want more than that, though, because the Braves lose Freddie Freeman, even though Billy hates them, organizationally.
Enough with Freddie Freeman already. Jesus Christ.
Organizationally, the Braves are set up to haunt everybody for a long time because they lose Freddie Freeman, and they're somehow better anyway.
They didn't lose Freddie Freeman. They didn't offer Freddie Freeman enough money. This wasn't like some sort of natural disaster that led to Freddie Freeman ending up in Los Angeles somehow. He chose to leave, and then they had this whole little game where they were pretending that his agent didn't do a whole thing, and it led to lawsuits and that. Remember that whole thing?
Yeah, Doug Gottlieb was in the middle of that.
Turncoat.
And immediately ran away from what he was reporting that the agent hadn't
Well, he got
informed.
sued.
Ran immediately. You're saying, remember all that? Yes, I remember the details. Doug Gottlieb got sued and ran for his life. That's what happened there. Because his reporting was all wrong on that.
But Billy is right. Like, Freddie Freeman wanted to go home. He left.
I'm also
They replaced
right.
him with Matt Olson, who's better.
I'm also right that they replaced Freddie Freeman and got better.
The team's better, exactly right. But I don't feel they're not.
He's not
entitled
lost.
To win.
You're right. He's not lost at sea. Is
Yeah.
that your
I
largest?
feel bad for him.
Your
Jeez,
largest
he's
point.
just fine, making like $200 million out there in LA.
I understand. So
Right.
your point is you're objecting to the verb lost because I've placed him on a raft somewhere,
Right.
living with a volleyball in Castaway. He's not lost. We know exactly where he is. He's playing first base for the Dodgers.
I don't understand. Like, you want the Braves to win because they won like 106 games in the regular season. Like, that's why I want them to lose
Me
more than
too.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
And the Dodgers.
exactly right. I
Let's-
like when
right.
these
Forget
massive
about that.
favorites lose. Why would you want these teams to win?
I didn't say that I wanted them to win. I said that I want more than just stakes and exciting games because Stugotz is saying here, I want the Phillies to play a game 5. And I'm like, nope. I'd like the Braves to play elimination games the entire time. I'd like to see the best at their best and see if they can win a game. I don't want them to get eliminated early. I want them to get eliminated late. I do want them to get eliminated, though.
No, I want this to be the 2001 Seattle Mariners. Like, I want this to be. I was actually hoping that they lost last night and then would get swept today, just so I can walk around and say that the Marlins won the same number of playoff games as the Braves did. That's what I'm rooting for.
You want max embarrassment.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Because they're going to be there every year. So we might as well have some bad embarrassments along the way, right?
Well, speaking of this, because I believe watching sports to hate people is a great deal of fun. And Mike Ryan came in here hot this weekend because Shedeur Sanders is waving his watches at the Arizona State crowd.
Watches.
Mike Ryan is tired of all the attention that Colorado is getting. They are now 4-2. They have won more games than was expected.
Where are they in the BCS?
The betting was over 3.5. A historically bad program has now won against Colorado State as a big favorite. Arizona State's not any good, but they won barely late, but they did win, showing resiliency. And they got through the difficult part of their schedule. Oregon, they got crushed. They got rolled. They're not big enough along the offensive line. But even the loss against USC felt like a win, because they stayed with USC. They played within a touchdown.
So did Arizona.
Yeah, no, understood. But I'm just saying that they're competitive, Stugotz.
They are.
They've achieved
Yes.
beyond expectations. And here's Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback, still doing this thing where he's showing everybody how much money he has on his wrist. He's taunting Arizona State fans after leading a fourth quarter rally. Arizona State late in that game, Stugotz, tied it, and he went right down the field with 40 seconds left and won it late to get them in field goal range. And now he's showing them the watch at the end of the game. And this is part of what it is. This is why they're polarizing. This is why they're fun. This is why they're obnoxious. This is why they're different than what's in most of college football. There aren't a lot of other quarterbacks holding up a watch that is very expensive.
It's a $70,000 AP Royal Oak 15500, and it's actually bust down, which makes it usually the value less. But the way that they've put it on the diamonds, it's like 70 grand probably.
Billy, that was some real expertise that everybody was shocked by there. What, you guys are surprised that Tony's got jeweler expertise?
Well, I mean, he has words, and no one knows if that's real or not.
People that
all made up.
know exactly what I said, and they get it. Real Hoopers, though.
What don't you understand? You guys are all shocked that
I thought a Rolex was the only expensive watch. What do I know?
Oh, you fool.
I know. I don't know anything about watches. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a working man. I can't afford that. I mean, please. I don't even wear a watch. Why? Because I can't afford one. You know, that's why I carry a phone. You know, I
right.
want to know the time. Whoa, look at the time. There.
How old is
It's a
that
watch.
phone?
It's really old.
It's taking a real battering.
Yeah, I know it has.
Just today.
How old is that phone? Because I feel like if I looked at the apps, I would get Atari.
I don't even know how old this phone is, but when I went to get a new phone, I insisted on the one where you can still press the round button.
Oh, I like
He
that.
actually
wow.
just
Yeah.
got a
Jealous.
replacement.
Yeah, I did.
He just got a replacement, but he asked for, like he just said, the
He
button.
wanted the old.
He wanted that
he
button.
wanted
Older,
I
please.
need my button.
He goes to get the updated iPhone, and he wants
Yes.
something every bit as old as what he already had.
That's correct. I
For the
need my
last
button.
15 years.
Does it still tell the time?
Yeah, my
Nice.
security button.
There you go.
Right.
Mike, what do you have for us on this Shedeur Sanders video?
I mean, I get heaping flowers on top of what Coach Prime has done there. In year one, they seem like they'll build on all this. I think you can admit that that's a terrible look. It's one thing if it's after a huge win at home, even to your fans, but you're taunting the Arizona State Sun Devil student section.
Why is it a terrible look if I'm just...
He's waving a $70,000 watch at the worst team in the Pac-12 student section because they didn't cover against the Sun Devils? Like what? Like it's. I get the excitement in beating TCU, national runner-up. I get the excitement, first home game against Nebraska. I get beating your rival, even though you barely did against Colorado State, and they're bad. But we're just going to do this every week. Like there's not a tipping point to the taunting. We're going to taunt the lowly Arizona State Sun Devil student section.
You're a fan of the U, Mike.
Dude, there are levels to it. They'll stare down Oklahoma and Brian Bosworth in the eye and tell them what's happening. There's it's another thing entirely to flash a $75,000 watch at a student section when it's Arizona State.
You say bad luck, and all I would say to you,
and I would concede if the U did that, and it would be a bad look. That's odd.
I agree. Showy.
Okay, and you can say it's odd and showy, and I could say that you're not here to govern other people's joy when they win and how they want to show you that they've just won. That team was not expected to do anything. That team feels like it's in the middle of a center polarizing storm in America. Any victory it has is over a lot of people that hopes for it to fail, and I would not root against them celebrating their joy.
But now they have expectations. Like, they're good. We know they're good. They're talented. They stayed in the game with USC. They beat TCU. Mike is saying, hey, don't do it against Arizona State.
Understood. And I'm saying that before the season started, they were Arizona State. They were below Arizona State. It's one of the worst programs I've ever seen. So if they're going to be joyous about victory, I'm going to allow it. I'm not going to try to police their joy.
I'm not saying don't be joyous about victory. I'm saying, like, that's a bit much.
Be joyous the way I want you to be joyous?
Yeah. Don't do that. I'll stop short there. Do that to your own fans. Like, rubbing it in the face of an Arizona State Sun Devil student section is weird. You don't
really
concede that?
You really care about these
No,
people.
but like, okay, it's just like we're going to defend them at all costs and not concede that that's a bad look.
I'm not going to dispute that it's showy, and I'm not going to dispute that some people can see it as a bad look.
It's ridiculous.
I'm also not going to tell Deion Sanders' kid, who's been raised on Deion Sanders, how he should celebrate because of my value
That's not celebrating, though. It's being disrespectful. Like, that's the line, right?
That's not celebrating victory. That's being disrespectful to people. That's making them feel less than.
A little bit classless, to be honest.
Okay, and by your definition of what class should look like.
Well, here's the thing. He has every right to do that. I'm not saying he shouldn't do that. They should stop him from doing that. He has every right to do that, and people have every right to sort of shake their heads and go, wow. That doesn't seem right.
Guys in the NFL have stolen that celebration. They're doing it now in the NFL. Breece Hall did it for the Jets.
Dominique Foxworth told me it ain't tricking if you got it.
This, I will not say that. I would feel ridiculous.
Another kid saying is that there's levels to this. You can be happy. You can even talk crap to the opposing student section. I think it's a confluence of all these things. Like you're making kids feel less than. And you're just because you eked out a win against the worst team, arguably in a Power 5.
Again, no, but I would argue. You tell me if you think I'm wrong on this. Given that every commercial I see, Deion's selling me almonds. Like I would argue that what Deion Sanders is doing there. How
many catchphrases has he trademarked this season?
There are 5 I read about. I wrote down 5 of them.
Trademarked 14 different catchphrases.
They are in sales as a family. They are wonderful at it. They are taking over a business and keeping themselves in your mind, and they have a lot of support, and they have a lot of support from people who do not like your definition of class.
Don't make me the man. Don't do that. Don't. I take offense to what you're doing. I'm not some crotchety old white guy. I'm not Mike Francesa at the Cotton Bowl. Stop that.
No,
I gave him his credit. I gave him his flowers. I like his approach with Cormani McClain. I'm giving him all the credit in the world. I'll stop short at flexing on kids at a student section because you eked out a win at Arizona State. Stop. I'm not policing anybody. It's ridiculous.
I cannot make the argument on behalf of make people feel beneath you because you have more money on your wrist than they have. I can't make the argument on behalf of that and how it looks, but I understand how Deion Sanders and his family would make that argument. And so I'm making it on their behalf.
What? Do you not listen to this guy in his locker rooms? He makes everything personal. Matt Rule doesn't even talk about him. And he's like, how do you disrespect me? They run on this bullshit two-way code of honor. Get out of here.
They think that they get to define what's respect and what's personal.
Okay, well then
And
define that.
And
define that. I'm not policing it. Coach Prime is.
Coach Prime is good with it.
Coach Prime and his sons are.
They're good with it.
You talked about my dad. They're making it personal. He's policing it.
But do you not understand that this is all part of the content game for them? They live for being in the middle of the frenzy.
No, I don't.
In the middle of the hype.
No, I don't think so. I think it was one kid being cocky in a moment, and I think it's fine to dissect it and say that's a bit much. I'm not making it something bigger than it is.
Why wouldn't he be cocky, and why shouldn't he be cocky? He just led a game-winning drive.
Because there is sportsmanship, there is class, and Lord knows he takes plenty of offense anytime someone puts his dad in his name.
Time out, guys. First off, he can do the celebration, and Mike can object to the celebration.
Right.
Dan.
Like Shedeur Sanders is plenty fine policing other people and what they can say about Colorado football and what he deems classless. But I'm Mike Francesa because I say, hey, maybe don't do that.
All I'm saying is that this version of the Colorado Buffalo, in whatever it is that they appear in the modern age, appealing to the hip-hop community, they are triggering all the same landmines that Miami did. They are the modern version of this, of throwing it all in your face.
But they're also the most sensitive. Because they trademark it's personal. Because if anyone says anything negative, they'll run with it. And they'll make it their identity for the week. So what I'm saying is if you're going to be that way, two-way street. Don't be talking shit to kids.
I have here somewhere in my phone, Stugotz, all of the things that Deion Sanders has trademarked. Ain't nobody care.
Right.
F around and find out. We keep receipts. Pit bull in pumps. Working or twerking.
Wow.
He hasn't even gotten that one off yet. Puck drops tonight. Hockey is back. I saw it got some love on main channel ESPN. Everyone's excited about
showing the games.
Connor Bedard and Sidney Crosby doing promos together. Yeah. Instead of one person boring us to tears, we have two now. It's incredible. Roy's giving Stugotz some over-unders.
It's a tradition unlike any other. Roy did this last year. He gave me some O's and U's. He gave me 2 O's, 1 U. They were 3-0. This year, he gave me 2 O's. No U's. I like a little U's with my O's, but he gave me 2 O's. He gave me the Senators, the Sens, and the Sabres, Buffalo Sabres. How about that?
I'm adding an under, the Lightning.
Are you?
Oh, they got to get their
You
house
better
in order
be careful.
with
You
that
better be
Stamkos
Wait a
contract.
minute. Yeah, Roy better be careful speaking ill of the Lightning. Haven't you learned all of your lessons?
Well, Vasilevsky is going to be out for 2 months.
So he's never going to count against their salary cap and come back in the postseason to haunt everybody? I'm familiar with their work over there in Tampa Bay.
Short offseason this year, huh?
It said just as short as always.
Only because the Panthers were in the last round of games. That's why.
The shortest offseason in Florida Panthers history, and there's plenty to be excited about. And if you're excited about hockey starting tonight, avoid this segment because I'm gonna talk about real life stuff that the sport is doing that I'm not crazy about. And we're in a group chat with Roy. You're not because you have green text, but we're in a group chat with Izzy Gutierrez, who texted us this morning. I'm done with hockey. I hope I'm not betraying a confidence there, Izzy. I really hope I'm not, sincerely. But a lot of people are, because I don't know if you've noticed. In prior seasons, they would have Military Night, Military Appreciation Night, and Pride Night. They would have all these different nights. St. Patrick's Day, and they would all be honored with a training jersey that they would wear for skate around before the game, and then they'd switch into their main uniforms. And there were some in the league, roughly about 10 vocal people in the league, that were offended by this, and to the point of not even wearing the jersey, making a political, religious statement. Panthers had a player last year. Two that forgot that they had worn Pride jerseys previously.
It is one of the intersections and divisions in this country, Stugotz, that is the most laced with poison tucked in the pages of the Bible. To be able to say gay sex is against my religion, hard stop, is the center of this controversy as this country fights over women's rights, over religious issues, and a lot of things get filed under evangelical religion that is moralizing on behalf of others.
Yeah, and I'm not playing devil's advocate here, some people say they take exception to just one of the letters in LGBTQ plus, and those nights are for all the causes, and people have been vocal about it. So the NHL did something curious where they decided, and I think you can maybe make the argument for, okay, these nights will still exist. We're not honoring any of these nights with special jerseys before the game. Okay, blanket policy. But now there's more pointed implementations that Gary Bettman has had. It's basically the NHL's version of Don't Say Gay. We're just going to ignore it entirely. You can't put rainbow tape on your stick when you go out there for warm-ups. Now, this is one of, maybe not the most, but one of. There's golf out there and all that. But this is a pretty conservative base of athletes that make up this league. But it's also just a handful of people that have been vocal about this. Now, Bettman knows his Players Association, and what has gone on behind the scenes, I'm sure, has been a bit of a negotiation. But they're now going extra steps to consciously avoid any representation on the uniform of gay causes. Anything that might seem pro-gay is now fully eliminated and is now being treated as taboo by the league. And that is a sort of censorship that is new to professional sports, Roy.
Yeah, for a league that has a panel on inclusion, this is a major league step back for them. For a league that's trying to get minority groups, blacks, gays, into the sport, for a league that's trying to get a new generation into the sport, this is a major league step backwards for them. For a league that allows coaches to be abusive to their players, like Bill Peters, like Mike Babcock, give them second chances. This is bad. This is bad.
This is also a sport that while all the other sports in the bubble were pausing their sports, they went on a day longer because social causes like George Floyd's murder were not something that they wanted to really get to and have a part of their sport, and they had to be convinced to stop down while their bad luck went on for an entire day while all the other sports suspended. Gary Bettman it's been reported that they're going to expand into markets like Atlanta. They're going to try that for a third time now. They're going to keep trying to make this league bigger. And they're really hurting portions of their fan base that are gravitating to the sport. Izzy, our friend, loved the sport and loved that Stanley Cup run. And I think that there are a lot of people that feel like this is a personal affront to them.
Keeping it in this realm of corporations making choices on what their customers want, because I can be offended on behalf of my friend Izzy and just my morality in general, because I would not want a corporation or a league to sign off on what you're presently describing. But you do understand that all of these leagues post George Floyd have realized that you want to be careful if you're Bud Light about offending a certain faction of customers in this country. At ESPN, when they don't talk politics, it's at least in part because minorities were gaining all sorts of power and voice here.
But you mentioned voice. The customers really haven't been the ones raising their voice on this. Yeah, you'll find anything on social media, especially whenever they announce those and put out photos. You can never believe social media platforms for good faith actors, right? But it's really the players that are vocalizing their problems with this.
Seven players, a minority. That's it.
I think last year I got to the point like, okay, we'll have the jerseys. If you don't want to wear them, fine. That's your cross to bear. Why are we protecting them? Why are we protecting them from making their statements? If they want to make their statements, just like Colin Kaepernick, go ahead, live with the consequences. You want to say that it's a religious reason why you don't do this? Go on, live your life, man. But to just make a blanket policy where you take that off the table is a huge cop-out.
I believe that we are presently in a time where everybody is being asked to take a side, and some leadership that is backward or from a different time will simply say, Not taking a side. I'm going to sit out.
But the league took a side.
I know, but I'm going to take back what side I took because of whatever. 7 players speaking out. I'm going to take whatever the consequences are of trying to sit this out. I don't want... I'm going to try by simply, I understand exactly what you're saying. I'm not making the argument on behalf of why it is hockey would bow to 7 players. I'm not. I'm confused by it. But there has to be a reason from within this that the NHL is uncomfortable with all of it, that they would make the statement they're making by not making a statement at all. Make a statement at a side-taking chance by stepping back and trying to say, no, we don't do any of that here.
By removing anybody's ability to make any statement.
We're going to get out of the quote-unquote politics game, even though now what's getting thrown in the politics game is anything that is about any minorities of all kind.
Yeah, but I understand why. I mean, I don't like it. I understand why the NFL is conscious about it. It's the biggest thing. We can only lose people from this. Hockey can stand to gain by having more appeal to it. I don't think they're going to be losing fans.
So what
I
would be
dare
the
a
argument
Canadian to stop watching the NHL.
If you were to get honesty from the policymakers on this, what do you think honesty would sound like? Honesty on how it is that this is getting chosen.
What I fear is that it's a silent majority within that league that would rather not have to wear these jerseys, would rather not, would just rather care about what's going on the ice. Hockey players aren't these really multifaceted individuals. They're pretty one-sided when it comes to work-life balance.
You turn these 7 voices, though, into freedom fighters on behalf of a certain faction.
Well, you cave to them, which is my problem.
But this is exactly where corporations don't show leadership. It's how it is that they back away from this stuff.
They're showing leadership, Dan, and I'm sorry to interrupt you constantly. I just don't like it. I don't like the leadership that they're displaying. This is leadership. This is ballsy, but you got to call it out for what it is. They caved. They caved to 7 players.
And players on the other side need to exercise their freedom as well. I would love it if prominent players in the NHL, and the bigger the superstar, the better, came out publicly and said, I stand for inclusion. I'm not for blaming my bigotry and prejudice on a religion. I'm for inclusion. I am pro-LGBTQ. And come out and say it. And depoliticize this. Make it a human rights issue.
What if they're not, though? What if what Mike is saying is true, that the majority of the league silently signs off on these 7 players are fighting for all of us, that the majority of the league is saying, no, we're not good with these causes?
I think most players are just happy, oh, well, we don't have to deal with these distractions and these questions afterwards. Even wherever their own personal opinions are, it's like, I just want to talk about hockey. I don't want to have to address whether one of my teammates decided to not wear one of these jerseys or whether they did or not. I don't want to have to answer these questions.
You just make it so much harder for the minorities when there is all of this group pressure in your workplace to not do the right thing on behalf of diversity and equality, and to choose the loudest voices that don't physically necessarily look like equality and diversity, to make them the power voices on this.
And military appreciation nights go away. Well, not the nights, but the actual jerseys, all the concessions that needed to be made just for 7 people that didn't want to wear pride practice jerseys. It all feels silly in an extreme measure.
Yeah, and the Black History jerseys, you lose out on that too. Akim Aliyu, the guy who got blackballed because Bill Peters called him the N-word. You lose out on that. You lose out on that representation.
Is it possible that if you got honesty from the majority of whatever it is was happening in hockey, I don't know the answer to this question, that the answer to you would be some form of we don't really want diversity?
No, I think that's a stretch, and we're not hockey reporters. We're not in those locker rooms. I'm making my statements based on assumptions and from following the sport and seeing what the reaction is generally.
You're making it in response to 7 voices being heard and extrapolating that onto speaking on behalf of the majority.
I think those 7 voices cared a hell of a lot more than most of the other players, who just would rather just put on their skates and not have to worry about
you
any
realize
of this.
indifference there is the enemy, right?
Yes.
Indifference is an
That's
ally.
not the message that they're getting.
To being complicit on, you have to take a side now more than ever when you're dealing with hate crimes and death rates and division that doesn't seem to have a lot of precedent. You can't sit it out, Stugotz. You have to take a side, and if you choose to not take a side, you're also taking a side, and it's the side against equality. It's the side against diversity.
How about the Wild, Roy? Over under.
Over.
Oh,
Roy Bellamy, over the course of the history of this show, no one is more careful with how and where and when he uses his words. So when, by way of good morning, Roy Bellamy walks into a room and spits with some acid on it, don't have kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
You love Princess.
means it,
You
yeah.
love Princess Claire. You could not love Princess Claire. Princess Claire has shown you love that you did not know was available to you.
That is correct, sir. Unfortunately for me, 3 weeks ago, she brought home a bug.
Oh,
wow.
Jesus!
Wow.
Good
$5.
timing.
that's a
kiss,
fun, Roy.
$5.
Yeah, 10, actually.
Couldn't have written that better.
Jesus.
Yeah, she-
Good God.
I'll pay it a little bit.
That
but
was unpleasant.
I'm sorry.
$6. You
I
don't have
I
it
did
now.
that for show.
I don't
But anyway.
believe you're going to pay. A lot of people say they're going to pay, and then they don't.
Dan
Yeah, I
knows
don't.
1,000 for getting
That's
correct.
Dan's the
podcast,
only
Roy.
person
Yeah,
that
I never pay.
carries cash.
I actually have cash right here. But 3 weeks ago, she brought home a bug from school. And then it just metastasized for me.
They're petri dishes for sickness.
Well, I hope
Yes.
not literally.
Yeah, well, literally. Because I ended up with bronchitis over the weekend.
Oh, man.
Ooh,
I
that's
hope you're
unpleasant.
medicated.
Bringing it
Well,
in here?
but,
I mean, what's...
but Roy,
So
you got-
you're good to go.
So
You guys
we're
are
good to go?
Is it contagious? You have a
They are.
contagious?
I mean, you're just
No
saying.
idea.
it's not contagious. Then how did you get it from your daughter?
You blame
No, all the coughing that I had
Right.
turned into bronchitis.
Oh.
I'm not going to give it
So
to
it's a
anybody.
cause and
But
effect.
she gave you the cough.
not
Right,
really-
right.
How does bronchitis work? I can
Well,
get a
it's-
cough, and then the cough causes the bronchitis, or does
Guys,
the
started
Roy
from
just
a
said he's
cold.
not going to give it to us. We're good.
No, it started from a cold. The cold's gone.
Well, how'd you get the cold?
Coughing. Oh, no, I got it from Claire. The
Right.
cold
Can you
came
give
from
us
Claire.
the cold?
I'm gonna need
I
you to
can't
pee
give-
in
the
this
cold
cup.
is gone.
How do we know this?
Just pee in this
Because I
cup.
know it.
But I will say this, Roy. You tweeted out this weekend that you've treated this ailment by drinking beer, which is not the recommended solution to.
is
No,
for
it
me.
checks out. Yeah, it checks out.
Yeah. That was
Quote, I
Damn
treated
right.
my symptoms with beer, BTW. Like, I don't know that we should be taking medical advice from you on this.
That was called a joke, Billy. But anyway, yeah. So I got antibiotics and some sort of steroid or whatever. It's getting better. But
Please
it
don't
doesn't
tell me
sound-
one of the antibiotics is Nunya.
Actually, that is the clinical name for said prescription. Yes, it
But
is.
don't have kids is the overriding theme. Your message
They
is
get you
that
sick.
they
Yeah,
get you
they
sick.
get you sick. Yes. Don't
Billy,
have
do
kids.
you agree? Are you endorsing? Are you co-signing Roy's controversial take of don't have kids? Also, put it on the poll, Juju at LeBatard Show. Have kids? Yes or no?
I will say this, and we'll back up Rose's point. My daughter has had a fever for the past couple of days. She had to go to the doctor yesterday, so everyone's on edge at home.
My wife just texted me that she's leaving work right now to go pick up my kid because she's sick at school.
It's sick season, guys.
Don't have them.
My daughter's homesick today.
It's not a bit.
It's that time of year.
Literally,
It's
not
that
even
time
a
of
bit.
year.
I feel great. Literally not a bit. I can
Don't
show you the
have
text.
My
kids.
daughter
It's that time
had to
of
leave
year.
school today. That's
Don't have
incredible.
kids.
It's a great blessing, Dan. You'll never feel love anything like it, but they're always sick. My God.
The
Get an
changing of
immune
seasons.
system, am I right?
You don't need to tell Dan.
They are a plague at our schools. The sicknesses are being passed between our kids. It's clear, based on the circumstantial evidence in this room, that all of our kids are making our other kids sick, and they are bringing home sickness, so don't have kids.
We're slowly dying, Dan.
The last time I Paul's wife.
Wow.
I keep forgetting about that, and then you jostle me back to reality because I can't help every time you do that picturing you swinging, and it's physically unpleasant a thing to picture.
Just swinging, just him having sex.
While swinging, you don't know what I'm
Caught something.
imagining swinging. Yes,
seriously.
I'm
Wow.
it's Freckle.
Unpleasant.
I get it.
So I mentioned Juju earlier, and I couldn't believe before the show today that Tony was saying that Drake has made a lot of mid albums and that Bad Bunny has made only great albums. But also within that, I learned that Juju was releasing music today, that our own Juju Gotti has new music out. I don't know any of the specifics except that he has chosen to release music on or around the time that Bad Bunny and Drake are releasing music, which seems like he's ready for a competition that is quite large. Drake, I don't know. I know a lot of Drake's music, and I know he's the most popular popular entertainer that there is in terms of hits, that everything he has breaks all of the streaming records, but I couldn't credibly do a album off between Juju Gotti, Bad Bunny, and Drake.
Shout out to Juju Gotti, by the way. Mr. J available on all streaming platforms. Go get that. Dan, here's the conversation that I was having with Mike Ryan earlier. Drake, yes, more hits than the Beatles. He says it in songs, and it's probably true. It's probably true.
When it comes to charts.
When it comes to charts,
But
it's true.
has Jessica ever been featured on one of their songs?
Yeah.
Correct.
Juju is featuring Jessica. There's a feature including Jessica Smetana. A feature.
The song is called Colors, by the way. Go stream that one.
Okay.
My favorite off the album, by the way. The thing is with Drake, has he had a classic album? He's somebody who has incredible hits, but has he had a classic album that will live the test of time? I don't know. I don't think so.
Can we play any of Juju's music around here? I did not know that Jessica was involved in this. I don't know what it would cost to
Nope,
play.
you're going to have to go download it.
Where do you think she's been? I mean,
No, you.
We don't give away freebies.
Mr. J everywhere.
Go
live
download
right
the
now.
whole album.
Yeah,
Let's
download
go.
the whole album.
Support Juju.
Dan, you listen to the album, then tomorrow you tell us what you thought about
All
it.
right, I'll give you a review, but
Apparently, you're going to have to decide between Bad Bunny and Drake, though.
I
and
love the
Juju.
idea of Juju, like us playing his music without consent and him suing us.
Yeah, that'd be
that's
great.
The downfall of the company. Should we roll the dice?
I would.
I feel like we should. I feel like we should take a chance and just play some. I did not. People are going to want to hear. What do you think is a better tease of the album? To tell people to just go download it, or to give them just a tiny sample that has some Jessica, and then you're like, okay, maybe this is something that I'd like to. I would think that that all people involved would appreciate that as a promotion. Am I wrong?
Respectfully, hopefully you're going for Juju's music, not Jessica's music.
right, exactly.
Let me ask you a question. Is one of the songs about Jessica, or does Jessica perform?
Are you
on
jealous
one of the
right
songs?
now? Are you
He
jealous?
is.
That
Yeah.
you're
Yeah,
jealous?
yeah,
How
yeah,
is-
yeah,
this is
With
what's
Jessica
happening.
or featuring
It's featured.
Jessica?
Yeah, it's featuring Jessica.
Wow.
J'aime l'argent. J'aime gagner. Tous les jours.
That's Jessica.
That's all you get.
How about
It is.
that?
Yeah, if you like that, there's more
Wow.
on Mr. J.
Who knew she spoke French?
Greg is so jealous.
He's so mad right
I know,
now.
I am. And that's
Why am I not?
This is the new and improved Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.